It would be nice if you're able to pull up the list that she gave. I don't know if that's allowed. I don't know because I mean she wrote down, yeah, basically, these are the things that we need to also look at.
Thank you.
Thanks. And another person?
No. That's for my purse. No. All right. I'm going to call it to order at 7:02. Welcome to the Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 special meeting of the Nome Planning Commission. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Mr. Clerk, could you please call roll call to establish quorum?
Councilmember Jennings, here. Councilmember Logan. Here. Councilmember McCann. Here. Councilmember Rupert.
Here.
Sorry about that.
You're good, man.
Councilmember Ford.
Here. Can everyone hear in the audience? You can hear all right? You can hear me? Okay. All right. So Dan, they said you're a little quiet, so if you can speak up whenever you're needed to say something. So the first order of business is going to be approval of the agenda. Did everybody get to see that? Can we put that on the screen? I'm sorry. There you go. We'll have to pass it around the community. I need a motion.
Sorry.
Are there any amendments or discussion? Could you call the roll to approve the agenda?
Was there a first and second?
Yes.
First. Jennings and
Jennings and McCann.
Councilmember Porter.
Yes.
Councilmember Berkeley.
Yes.
Councilmember McCann.
Yes.
Councilmember Odom.
Yep.
Councilmember Jennings.
Yes.
That motion passed.
So we can open up the floor to citizens' comments. I do want to let everyone know that there will be an opportunity to speak again after after the presentations. So we'll first hear the presentation by Kiewit, then from the City of Nome's representative, and then we'll have the public hearing where people will be able to speak to this matter at hand. So is there anyone that has anything they'd like to say now? Okay, we're going to keep moving right along. Is the representative from Kiewit here? Oh. So this is concerning a conditional use permit submitted by Kiewit Construction to construct a crew camp in Block 125 of the Nome Town site, zoned as commercial. They have submitted an application for a conditional use permit. And we are excited to hear their comments.
Good evening. My name is Scott Bolzano with Kiewit. You've got Dan Peterson with Kiewit, and then you've got Ron Thompson with Scope Engineering here tonight. So about a month ago, we were here in front of the Planning Commission, and we rolled out this temporary man camp that you see on the screen today. And this is a rendering of it. It's up on 6th and Stedman area, which some folks had not seen this, we believe, before, so we just want to make sure everybody, it's a 5 dormitory facility. It pretty much covers the entire footprint of the area. So I'll get into it here. So it's a 186 bed camp facility layout. And what we wanted to share with you is on the left-hand side here, this is 7th, and you've got Stedman, and then you've got the future 6th Avenue. So you can see the camp takes up most of the area. We got 3 of the existing facilities are going to reside there. You've got access around emergency services. And then here's the 5 dormitories. They're all single occupancy. Then you've also got an Arctic corridor that all the dorms feed into that's enclosed. And then as you come, all the folks that are residing in the dormitories go down the Arctic corridor. They go through a corridor. On the right-hand side, you've got a gymnasium. On the left-hand side, you've got a lounge that we have like foosball and pool tables and televisions for our residents. You continue walking, you've got a dining room. It holds about 120 people. And then you've got a kitchen area, full kitchen. In addition, in all the dormitories, you've got laundry in all of them. So you won't see residents going outside in the community doing their laundry and so forth. Okay, here's a photo of one of the modules, one of the dormitories right here in the top left. Over here on the right-hand side, this is what it looks like. So it's inside the dormitory. You pretty much sandwich the 2 dormitories together, and it creates a hallway between a dormitory on this side and a dormitory on that side. That's how all the residents will access their corridor that leads them to the Arctic. This is a photo on the bottom left of a single occupancy room. So all of them are single. There's no one that's allowed to have another person in the facility, in their room. So you can see it's got a television, it's got a bed, it's got a desk, it's got heating in it, air conditioning, it's got a full bathroom, shower, and toilet, and then it's also got a vanity sink, and you can see in the right-hand corner. These are all brand new facilities, is what you're looking at. So about a month ago, we received approval from the city of Nome on an encroachment for that same area. And then in addition to that, we met about a month ago with the Planning Commission, and they approved the variance. So tonight where we're at is we're requesting from the Planning Commission a conditional use permit for that area. So first of all, we want to talk about the safety and sanitation of the facility. So we essentially designed the facility to have, and the layout of the facility to have expedited access to the emergency services. And there's a few slides that you'll see in there where how we did that, but we're going to have 24-hour, 7 days a week site security, that if any emergency services need to get into the facility, they will be able to get into the facility. Also, they'll have keys to the locks to the exterior, so if they need to get in between the modules and so on, they'll have access to that. And we encourage, if the Planning Commission allows us to have this facility here, we would encourage the emergency services to come to our site, tour the site, understand how the site's laid out. So if they ever had to access it, we would very much encourage them to do that, okay? So the existing utility infrastructure, right now, the water, the sewer, and the electrical that resides at it actually meets all the camp requirements. We put a fire suppression system in, sprinklers, alarm system. We tested the facility, the water lines there with Nome Joint Utilities. They comply and they work for the system. We also have been working hand in hand with Nome Joint Utilities for a good 6 months, just getting their input on the facility, coming up with a design that works for both the camp and the existing facilities. Nome Joint Utilities has said that, hey, our camp facility will not impact the current utility system for the city of Nome. There's not going to be an impact by putting this in there. We're right now, we have submitted all our drawings to the State of Alaska Fire Marshal. We've received for the camp facility structure approval from the state. We've also on the fire suppression system, we've received approval from the state. The fire alarm system, it's been submitted, but currently it's pending. So they're just going through the review process. And then the kitchen Ansel system, it's a full system. In case something happened there, it'll discharge, and it's going through the state approval right now as we speak. So Kiewit has definitely a approach to put a man camp in a community. And it's no different than what we've done in the past. We're going to apply the same principles and the same rules if we're successful in getting this approval. So number one is all residents are going to be indoctrinated in our camp rules. So what you see up on the screen right there is some of the ones that are really pertinent to the, call it the community. There's others in there, but these are ones we kind of wanted to highlight. Number one, dry camp facility. Number two, we drug test and alcohol test initially all residents, and then we do randoms, and then if we have suspicion, we can go ahead and drug test them. So this is going to be a dry man camp. And so in addition to that, every resident, whether it's a subcontractor or a crew or a staff, we all have to comply with the same rules. One of the things we're going to stress is we all have to be good stewards. We're guests here in the city of Nome. We're here to build a project for the city of Nome and the Army Corps of Engineers. And we want to make sure that's conveyed to all the people that reside on our jobs and in the man camp. So respect on both, both for everybody. We want to make sure there's a respect for the community, respect within the camp. We don't want troublemakers. So that's why we institute, and we found it very successful in order to have rules and make sure people follow them. Controlled access, and you'll see I'll point out a spot where we have controlled access and monitoring, and also traffic control requirements. And you'll see that in my presentation here in a minute. Single room occupancy. We built it for that, and we do not want people bringing in guests into their rooms. You'll see in one of our schematics there that there's only one point of entry in and out of the facility unless there's an emergency situation. And you'll see that. And the whole intent is to make sure that we can keep control of our residents, and that we also don't have people coming into the residence that are not supposed to be coming into the residence. Okay? The last thing I would say is if someone doesn't want to comply with our rules, we're not interested in them being here. I mean, we just flat out say that. We know we're guests. We want to be good stewards. And bottom line, zero tolerance. And that's going to be stressed to the people when they come to our facility. So site security is the next one I wanted to touch on. And so here in the left-hand corner, this is called the front access. This is controlled access, 24 hours a day. There'll be an individual right there. And when you walk in the door on the left-hand side, it's almost like a hotel. It'll be a reception area. We'll have cameras there. So we will have inside cameras and exterior cameras. That helps us understand or make sure that people aren't going out the back doors or trying to get people in or coming through windows. So what you're seeing here is on the left-hand side, you can see this is the main point where everybody has to come in and out of the facility. We've got all kinds of doors. You can see over here on the back side, these are the dorms. You can see there's access there, but no one's allowed to go there unless there's an emergency. And we will be able to see that people are not coming in and out of that because we're gonna have the cameras inside the corridors. So bottom right, you can see these yellows. These are exterior cameras around the perimeter, plus lighting. And we know you can't have a bunch of lighting where it's be shining to people's, you know, residents and so on, but we're gonna have lighting that shines down so we can see the area around the perimeter. Okay, so that'll allow the security to monitor the exterior and the interior of the corridors, in the halls, so on, throughout the facility. That's kind of our site safety or security. And then the last one in this upper right hand, this is a gated area between the trailers where emergency services will have a key. They can access it at any time if there was that they needed to. It's wide enough to accommodate. It's like 20 to 25 foot wide. So accommodate, we'll make sure snow is removed and blah, 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 that sort of stuff. Okay. So they have access. The next thing I'd mentioned earlier is traffic control. So here is the Stedman camp location. So as you can kind of follow the arrows, our main routes to our work areas are going to be up, hit the bypass road. So if you need to go out to the port, you'll follow the arrows, go down to the port. We're also going to have work up in, call it Satellite Field, so they can go access that way. Or of course, we're also going to be out at Cape Nome Quarry. That kind of gives you, the plan is that's part of our indoctrination of all our crews and subcontractors, anybody that's working on the job, so they know this is where we want to keep you. Doesn't mean that periodically they're going to need to go in and they're going to get fuel, and you might see a yellow and black pickup in town. We're not precluding that, but we want to control it. This is the main traffic, okay? That we don't want a bunch of people dispersed throughout the community. We'd like to control them when they go to and from work. And you can see the time frame. The people are coming here to work. We have a small work window, a season to get the work done. So our plan is 6 to 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So people are coming here to work, and that's what we expect them to do. And that's kind of our work hours. This year we won't have as many, call it day and night. We will be working nights, but not as all the crews. In 27, 28, they'll be pretty much around the clock type of deal, but we still will be doing night shift operations this season. Dust control. So Kiewit has we brought motor graders here to blade the road if we need. We brought water trucks as needed to make sure the dust doesn't boil up. And we've also brought dust palliative, that if we need to put dust palliative where we're hauling or so on, we'll spread it. We brought that to bear to Nome. So that is headed up here right now on the barges when we set sail here in May to come up. Parking. So that same area on the bottom right-hand side, we've got designated parking. No one wants to see a bunch of yellow and black pickups sprung all over the different side roads and so on. So it's very designated. In the yellow, you can see that. So I think there's probably 50 or 60 stalls in the area that you see on the yellow. So we'll be parking on the future 6th, and we'll also be on Stedman. Back in this black line back behind it, that's kind of for emergency services, so they can get behind, but they're not out on the main road. We've also got areas where we can put snow each side, and if it gets too much snow, then we'll take it to a designated snow spot to dump. Kind of the last thing that I wanted, we handed out a couple letters, and one of them, so the St. Paul letter, this is not what Kiewit wrote, this is what people wrote about Kiewit when we came into the community. And we wanted to share that. And what I can tell you is the people that these letters are pertinent to within Kiewit are the same management that were on these jobs. They're going to be here on this job. And they're the ones that set these rules and expectations of our craft and staff and subs. So we are not going to, and one thing I stepped over is you're going to see yellow and black trucks up here. You'll see a few subcontractor trucks, but we are not allowing any craft or personal vehicles here on site. You will not see that. You'll see the yellow and blacks, and then you'll see a few subs that we have hired. They'll have their own rigs, their companies, okay? But you will not see a whole bunch of different vehicles here, okay? So this first one is this St. Paul. So in around 2010, we had to go make rock in 2010 in St. Paul. And so this was the city manager's comments after we were completed with the job. And I thought I'd highlight just a few of them. There's a lot of words in here. But first one is that you'll see the underlining here. We just said, this is from the city manager. He says, we appreciate Kiewit's diligence in providing a safe work environment in the community, as well as keeping the community informed of their work. We need to do that here too. Next thing, Kiewit did not allow its employees or supervisors to possess or consume any alcohol while on the island. We respected this demonstration of concern about the negative impacts of alcohol in the community. We are always pleased to work with Kiewit and appreciate their diligence in providing a positive impact to the community of St. Paul Island. So that was the first season we went in. Then after we made the rock, then we went to Unaclete because we had to go place the rock. So we spent the whole season in Unaclete. So this was with Norton Sound Economic Development Corporation. And here's their comments. So top left, the community as a whole, especially appreciated, instituted a no alcohol camp policy on Unaclete project. Finally, and more important, as a board member for Unaclete Native Corp, I was thankful on how Kiewit conducted business in terms of respecting the environment. In essence, on the far right-hand side here, in essence, I'd like to thank you and Kiewit for ensuring our community was not negatively impacted by your company. All too often, we see a contractor come into our village, which is located nearly 400 miles from the nearest city in Alaska, and not care about the local hire, the community events, and the environment. In fact, we are still dealing with one such company that is completing a project here this month. So this was from the Community Benefits Director. So we just want to say this is how we plan on operating within the city of Nome, and we will operate our man cafe if we're successful in getting a conditional use permit. So now I'd like to introduce Ron Thompson with Scope Engineering.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, my name's Ron Thompson. I'm just going to go through the criteria that you guys are discussing today with regard to the conditional use, and just briefly say through our presentation how we felt we meet each of the conditions of the criteria for a conditional use. The first condition was a conditional use will satisfy all applicable provisions of the title and subdivision regulations unless a variance is being requested. So we do meet all of the requirements of the code except what we had to do at the last meeting, which was get the encroachment permit and also the variance. So in general, we meet all of the requirements, so we feel that that criteria has been met. The second criteria is the conditional use will conform with or further the goals, policies, and strategies set forth in your city's comprehensive plan. You guys have a comprehensive plan that has identified a housing shortage and a housing issue, and it's very hard to find in Nome. What we're trying to do is prevent from taking any of that valuable housing out of your market for work-related people coming up here to do work. And so the crew camp is very vital in being able to provide that. And in your comprehensive plan, page 22 says housing is very hard to find in Nome. There's a great need for housing of all types, single family, multifamily, and for all income types. And the new hospital has created a housing shortage for construction workers. And once the hospital is built, we'll need to shift to new employees. So in the comprehensive plan, it kind of geared us toward finding a place to put workers and not use any of your in-town housing and leave that for the people that reside here, live here, and will be here forever. So in that, we feel like that's the main goal that we saw in your comprehensive plan, that we're definitely not making a negative impact on. We're actually helping that out because we're making sure that not only are the Kiewit employees, but their subs that they have that are staying up here will be in that camp as well. So we think that really furthers and follows the planning that the city of Nome has for housing. The third criteria is the conditional use will be adequately served with public utility services and facilities, if available, water, sewer, electric, fire protection, storm drainage, et cetera, and not impose an undue burden on public utilities. I think if you look back to the meeting a month ago, we've been working with Ken Morton for 6 to 10 months. I think it's been quite some time that I've been coming up here. He stated in the public meeting at the last meeting that everything that we're considering, he is good with. The public utilities here in Nome are more than adequate to take on the water supply, which we tested the hydrants, and we have the flow, we have the safety, we have the sanitation facilities, and the site already has been graded out. And from what we understand is the storm, the drainage is properly working now. If not, we'll be working on fixing that as we put this in to make sure it drains and doesn't cause an impact. And so it's been very, very good to work with Ken on that, and he's been very positive with what we've done. And so we've developed our design toward what his recommendations were, and so that's been a pretty good process. The next criteria is the conditional use will not substantially alter the basic character of the district in which it is in or jeopardize the development or redevelopment potential. Obviously, this is a temporary facility. We have a plan in the submittal. We did a deconstruction plan that everything that comes in will come out when we leave. And so we feel like it won't further a problem with development. We got the variances for the lot lines to leave the lot lines as they are. So when the end product of this will be ready to develop and move forward and meet the needs at the time that this facility leaves the location that it's at. And we know exactly where we're placing the manholes because of working with Nome Utilities to make sure that where we're putting the manholes and where we're tying in, we will be pulling everything out up until that manhole at the property line. And everything will look just like it is today when that facility is decommissioned. So we feel like we the long term is not going to be affected because this is not intended to be long term. The next criteria is the conditional use will result in efficient on and off site traffic circulation, which will not have a significant adverse impact on the adjacent uses or result in hazardous conditions for pedestrians or vehicles in the adjacent to the site. I know that Scott showed you where the parking was, but he didn't go into the detail that they have a strict plan that all vehicles are back in parking. So they back into the parking spots. So when they're coming out, everything is visible and what we feel and what they feel is a very safe environment with regard to parking. It's only their vehicles. Like they said, Scott said, they're not able to bring up their own personal vehicles up here. So it'll be only Kiewit vehicles. They make them back in. And so we believe that when everybody's leaving for work, the vehicles are all pulling forward. They'll see the full aspect and not have to worry about backing out in a hurry or whatever. They're all pulling in forward. So we feel that that's a big note in their operations guide of how they run a plant. The next criteria is the potential negative impacts of the conditional use on the rest of the neighborhood or the neighborhood on the conditional use have been mitigated through setbacks, architecture, site arrangement, or other methods. The applicant shall satisfactorily address the following impacts. One is traffic. I think Scott hit that. There's a very quick path over to the normal drive path that they're going that leads to both their sites and at the port and at the quarry. And then driving out after they're backing into their parking is what we feel has mitigated as best we can. We set back the building off of the main roads, off of 6th, off of Stedman, and off of 7th. The parking is off of 6th and off of Stedman, but there's plenty of room to back on and maneuver and back into their space. Why not in the right of way? They'll actually be on property and they'll back out. So we feel like the safety concerns that were brought up by the community, I think in the last meeting, I think was very well heard, but at the same time, their original plan and their standard practice mitigates that from the way they operate their facility. Activity levels, the activity on the outside, the cameras, I think he showed you in there that the cameras are outside, the lights are facing down, so there's no dark zones around the building. They'd all be lit up. Kiewit did talk to the chief of police in the last couple of weeks because we talked about that in the last meeting, that we would find out from them if there were any things that they'd like to talk about. I think Kiewit is in lockstep with them. They feel like what we're doing is in a pretty good place, and they feel like it'll be safe. The cameras are in the right place. The single entry point is correct. So the activity levels and then the hours of operation, which are 7 to 7 and 7 to 7. That's kind of when the most activity will happen around there in those time frames, the 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And with the way they're parking, we think that will not impact greatly through town. And obviously they got to get gas and they got to go things outside of that path, but it'll be to meetings or to gas related things or work related functions. So the noise, we feel like because of the scenario of what Kiewit's plan is, they have a plan for that. They can't be out there. They're not to congregate outside. They're not to be hanging outside and doing all those type of things. So we don't think that the noise will be impacted any more than it would be in the area at this time. The building type, style, and scale, I think in the last meeting it was determined we did the minimum that we could to the minimum size building that we could to minimize the effort. And so in the variance process, we proved that the minimum nature of the size of the building was to the right scale. And the variance was to provide parking on site, to keep the setbacks off of 6th, Stedman, and 7th. So we didn't run into the buildings too close and didn't have vehicles vehicles on hours of operation. Obviously, they talked about the 24/7 and the hours. And then the dust, I think you covered the dust, and I covered the erosion control before. And then also we covered the applicant has submitted evidence of all the applicable local, state, and federal permits. So we have all the state permits already. In case this is approved, we're ready to go and be able to pull, once, if this is approved, then we can go to the Nome Building Department and file the last building permit for that. And that part of that was submitting the state permits and this conditional use. And if we get the conditional use, which we hope that you guys understand that Kiewit's serious, we met all the criteria that I believe that was written into your code for these crew camps. And I think that it showed that we listened. We heard everything in the last meeting. I think that people had some concerns with. We tried to be proactive and present that in exactly how they operate. But also at the same time, you can tell in their past history of different locales that they operate in. They operate the same in every locale. It's not like, oh, this is different than most. This is how they operate. And I think you can be proud that this is a business that will come into your community and be a good steward of the community and also meet all the conditional guidelines that you guys have in your code. So with that, we can answer any questions throughout the evening, but I think that we'll turn it over to you guys to discuss and hopefully support our request.
Commissioners have any questions that they would like to ask at this time of
Yes.
Kiewit? Yes.
I'll go up there just in case. Depends on what the question is, then I'll tell a friend here.
Oh, you guys step on it.
We're ready.
Whoever has the answers for us.
Chair,
Mr. McCann?
thank you. So a couple questions. First one, I understand the zero tolerance policy, but then what? What does that look like once you've said you're gone? Because I think we also heard at the last meeting just some concerns about it turning into Nome's problem to deal with at that point. So can you just talk to what happens after you've determined that they're no longer a fit for Kiewit because of one reason or another? Specifically, if it's alcohol related or they don't follow the rules, what does that look like?
Yeah, so part of the indoctrination that we talked through, we kind of laid out those rules. And so part of those rules is say drunkenness. You can't come back to the camp drunkenness. You can't be drunk. And if you're drunk in any way, that's the zero tolerance policy there. And so at that point, we would send the individual back from wherever they came from. They wouldn't be allowed to come back out to this project site there. Now it does get in a little bit of a gray zone. Who's to say somebody's drunk or not? That's where we're going to have our security guards there. They're going to have to make that determination. Is that individual minding their P's and Q's? We're not going to sit there and breathalyze each individual as they walk in there. But again, if somebody at all shows up that way, that's not allowed in our camp.
So if they're not allowed in the camp, where do they go?
The rule applies to the camp. And so we would, if we brought the individual out here, they're in the camp, they're no longer allowed in the camp, they'd have to be removed from the project site. Not to say that they couldn't come work for Kiewit, say down in lower 48 or somewhere else, but the rule is here at camp, and we're going to have that. It's in our indoctrination. So it's kind of zero tolerance there. We just send the individual away.
The answer is, they will not, they don't work here. Right? That's what
I think what he said is go to the airport and just
Oh yeah, we'll go to the air.
Until they get to the plane, where are they going?
Oh, we will keep them in our camp until the plane. And so we do buy all of the tickets and we manage all the flights and the rooms and everything. And so we would maintain control of those individuals until they left the community. And so we would allow them to stay in the camp for that night. They wouldn't be kicked out of there, but what it really would be is you broke the rule. So tomorrow morning, you're on the first flight out of here.
I would also say, that's something that we spoke to the police chief Mike about is, and he stressed open communication is a big deal. And we agree, open communication there. If there is a resident that did something wrong. I mean, our expectation is the police will arrest them if they did something wrong, right? But then also communicating back to Kiewit, hey, this happened or whatever. I think it's a very important thing to have communication on all parties. So, like I said early on, we don't want troublemakers. City Nome doesn't want troublemakers. No one wants troublemakers. So, but there is a fine line, you know. There's just a fine line there. So I think the big thing is open communication with everybody. And if a security guard comes through or somebody comes through, security guard's not, he doesn't have any weaponry, nothing like that. He's doing, or she is just, they observe the employee, and then they're also going to let our management know, hey, somebody came in, whatever, and then we have to deal with it.
Question? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I guess, so one of the requirements, right, is to make sure that the property goes back to the existing condition. Have there been any soil samples or studies done to ensure that, you know, you put this facility on there and it starts sinking, or anything like that, site specific?
There has not been soil samples conducted. There has been a pre-survey done out there with a licensed surveyor. We have been in coordination with Bering Straits, and part of our lease agreement there is, of course, if there is any sort of settlement, we have to put back to normal. There is language in there about contamination. Of course, if Kiewit was to cause any contamination, we have to go clean that up. If there was pre-existing, we have to make notices, and we'll have to deal with that as a group there.
There is a monitoring well that was there, but it's been decommissioned because it was deemed clean, from my understanding, through Bering Straits. And so I believe that, having been deemed clean, that there isn't considered a problem. That I think Shane, is that correct statement, Shane? Yeah. Yeah. So we believe that, you know, we'll leave it the way that it is today.
So really, we're building on top of the gravel pad, and then the only thing that we're really digging is to get the utilities. So really, we're not changing the features or anything like that per se, or more. They get the utilities, and you have to do some grading to get things level, and then we just got to make sure that the drainage is there too.
I guess my last question just is, coming from my day job banker hat, but I'm sure you have bonding for the job. Do you also have bonding for the deconstruction and that piece of it, or you're aware or have plans to get all that stuff in place before the building permit? Because the deconstruction is part of the approval for the CUA.
I mean, we have a plan as part of the conditional use. It's all part of the.
It's all part of the Army Corps of Engineers. We had to bond, do all that. So it's all part of it encompassing insurance. Kiewit had to supply a bond for the project, blah, blah, blah. This part of.
All the way through deconstruction.
All the way through deconstruction, and the
Because that
deconstruction
is
is part of the core
requirements
there too.
requirement is, it's got to be a temporary facility. And that's what Kiewit plans on doing.
So I'll have Madam Chair.
Mr. Jennings?
My question is in regards to personal vehicles. Will any employees be permitted to purchase recreational vehicles while they're here? Things like stoning, voltage, like we said quite often. Is that something you guys would permit, or is that something you've thought about?
So we would not allow it to be on our Kiewit facilities, and so where this camp facility is now, we hope that there's lots of local individuals that are hired, they're part of the projects. We're not going to mandate that they don't have personal vehicles or anything like that. I think our recommendation would be is our individuals need to kind of coordinate to their own if they are going to look for a recreational vehicle in that storage. So hopefully contact somebody in the community, can you store something? But Kiewit's not going to provide storage for toys and ATVs. I don't think we can preclude them from doing that, but we can tell them they can't have it on our property.
Thanks. I actually do have a couple more.
Go ahead.
So I know you guys have recognized snow removal as being a part of this. Do you guys have, I know you had a plan for where to put it, and then you said if you needed to move it somewhere else, if there was an inundation of snow at some point in time, do you guys have plans for heavy equipment and operators to do that? Do you guys have dump trucks? Do you guys have, Okay.
We would also utilize like what we're doing right now, Bering Straits, and they're helping us out over to that Garco building, doing just the snow removal and providing that support, even if for some chance Kiewit wasn't here. But we were making sure that we were keeping up with the housekeeping.
Yeah. Heavy equipment people in this town do a tremendous job, and my daughter loves watching them operate, and I just want to make sure there's not an additional, another person's name in the hat for them to try and juggle with everything else. They do a tremendous job, and they're constantly working, and they're doing even more now, even though we haven't had snow in a while. So just glad to know that you guys are planning on taking care of that as well. All right. I'm square. Thank you.
I'm good. Have you guys, I didn't hear anything about trash removal or refuse at all. We have basically one crew that runs here. Do you guys have your own crew that's going to take care of that? Or is that something that's already been figured out with NJU?
We have not, as far as, we were planning on using the city of Nome services, but if they don't have those, then we would take care of it ourselves.
We haven't discussed that with them.
No, not.
Kevin actually has been talking to them, so they're good with the big dumpster at the camp facility. They won't go all the way out to say the quarry. So the quarry, we're having to kind of bring our trash back in. But we have started talking to them about that. That was one of our concerns. Do we need to bring extra dumpsters? What does that look like? We are also kind of aware of, say, kind of some setup trash. So when we set this thing up, plastic, and so we plan to put all containers that we're using to ship stuff up, we're going to put those right back in those same containers and try to ship a lot of that same waste just back down south, utilizing those same containers.
So you said zero tolerance a couple different times on your, as far as alcohol goes, but then when you just answered the question a minute ago, it wasn't zero tolerance, it's zero tolerance for problems. Zero tolerance to me means like alcohol is not allowed if you are smelling like it, drunk, whatever, you're not allowed back. Your letter to made it sound like in other communities that you've gone dry completely. That is not the case. It will not be dry completely.
So what we've talked about here is we look to have a lot more, say, local hires in those smaller communities. And so we can't kind of preclude them, what individuals do. And so we're tied it specifically to what we can control, which is the camp. Our camp rule is the no alcohol. And so it's going to be that you can't smell it. You're not supposed to be able to smell it or anything. I do think that leads to individuals, if they decide to go to Airport Pizza, have a beer, they're risking their job and their employment. I'm not going to be the one that's out there saying that one beer tips them over, but they're flirting with the line that they're going to come back, and if they smell like it, we're not going to put up with it.
Background checks, I believe in the last meeting, somebody mentioned that. Do you do background checks for all your employees? How extensive are they? I mean, if somebody has a record of some type, where's the cutoff for where you will and won't hire?
I'll have to follow back up on background checks. And so what we do with, like, say, the unions is we do keep a list. And so if there's ever been a problem individual on another job, they're on that list. I know that for sure. I would have to follow back up on how extensive of a background check we can actually legally do.
Last one, I believe, dust control. We came off of, I believe, a really bad fall last year. I don't know how many of you were here, but the dust from the route that you're proposing generally all blows back toward town. Who's in charge of deciding when that needs to be watered or when the additives need to be put on? I mean, is that up to you guys? Is that something that the community can be part of, or how does that work?
So right now we're working with the DOT currently. So we're working through trucking permits. We're talking through dust control, joint dust control, multiple people hauling. Kiewit is, though, prepared that any sort of hauling we're doing is we're prepared to have the water truck there, as well as we're bringing dust palliative, calcium chloride. And so we do want to try to get ahead of this dust and not just be, once it's happening, addressing it, but try to be preventative. So getting this palliative down specifically in our parking areas, that road out there. So I feel like that would be very well controlled. I think for the larger haul, I think again, it's going to be on Kiewit and kind of all parties. I think the second we see dust, I think the whole community, we're all going to be hearing about it. So I was, I know that it did get kind of out of control there towards the very end.
So you'll see a motor grader out there patrolling, okay, see a water truck, you'll see that. Of course, days it's raining, it's just, but you'll see that on an ongoing deal. And then you'll see the dust pallet that's spread. The intent is it's long lasting, and then we can re-add it as necessary. But we kind of brought the different tools to react to the conditions that we all encounter, right?
Sure.
So.
And it's the same material that the city of Nome is using, so that we've been in contact with them to make sure that it was the same material that they're used to and understand and know. So I believe that they have that under control. And I think, like always, you'll have a number to be able to call somebody and be able to let them know if they haven't handled it already. But I think they'll handle it.
I think we're trying to work with ADOT, so we kind of work collaborative with them over all these areas and so on. So we are in discussions with them and trying to come up with a very workable solution to the dust.
You have another question? Yes, please.
Dan, can you pull up the slide from the traffic route?
Oh, I think Scott's got to share. Scott, you might have to share your presentation there, Joe.
Yeah, if you could.
Well, he's bringing that up. I have a question I'd like to ask. You said there were 50 to 60 parking spaces. Is that how many vehicles you anticipate having? 50 to 60 vehicles here? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's 6 and 7 on this. Share.
Yeah, so, it shows the outbound from camp going down, I think that's called Alaska Gold Access Road or something like that. And throughout the summer and winter, there's kids sledding on that hill 24/7 at 7 p.m. The parking for it is kind of beside the rec center because there's not any other good parking for families to park and get all their stuff out and get over to the hill. There's snow machines that's a kind of, you could almost call it a historic crossing for snow machines right there coming up.
We just saw a little kid take that crossing that you're describing.
So we're looking at 30 vehicles each way at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. crossing that spot. What alternatives have you looked at for traffic patterns?
We did look about going down 6th further down. I believe it's another 3 or 4 blocks. So you get past the baseball field, there's like the skate park there, and then come up there.
We looked at that. Key Street.
The only reason we decided to kind of steer away from that is we felt like we were driving by more residents, but it's just as simple and easy for us to mandate that that's the travel.
You're right next to where kids are playing, I think is the concern. That would be one of the concerns I would have with that.
Actually, it's Osborne Road. Right to it, intersects there. Old historic Osborne Road goes right up that road. Right up, drive through.
We'll keep our questions to them. And side discussions limited, please. One of the questions I have is about your manned reception. You've stated a couple of different things. I've heard a few different things. Is it going to be staffed 24 hours at that reception desk, or is it only going to be staffed during the daytime hours?
Staffed 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll have a nighttime, say, clerk there. They'll be there. That's their full-time position, to ensure that if anybody walks in there, they're viewing them, making sure they should be there and controlling that.
And they'll also have the cameras in that same, so they can look to see that somebody's not trying to come in from the outside, see people in, they can see the dormitories, it's right there.
With your emergency doors, will those have alarms on them so that there'll be an alert of some sort of?
Yeah, it's
somebody
just
does-
like, I think if you're in a building or that's an emergency, so as soon as you do that, the strobe goes off, makes a noise. Makes the individual feel awkward that they open the door.
My other question is, one of the reasons to approve this would be that this is for a specific job, a specific purpose. But we see a little bit of deviation there. You talk about subcontractors coming in. So I just wanted to make sure that we're talking about the port operation and the coast.
Yep, we are. So the sub we're talking about, say, is our catering sub. That'll be inside there, and so they'll be there. We're gonna have surveyors. They would be a subcontractor. Marine mammal monitors, and so once we do finally start doing some in-water work, they're a subcontractor to us as well. But to your point, they're all associated with the project specifically.
And then what kind of controls will you be able to enforce upon those subcontractors, since they're not Kiewit employees?
The exact same. We're going to treat them exactly as Kiewit employees when they're in our camp. Yes.
And they have to follow all, that's when we sign them up, they have to follow all our policies, so that's part of the condition.
And I had so many more questions, so you guys did a great job of answering them before I even got to speak, so thank you. Councilman Jennings?
I saw in sort of your design that you have a kitchen area that is going to be set up for everyone to eat at. Do you guys have plans for sourcing all of your food from outside of sort of where we are? And I didn't see anything in any of those dormitory style rooms that resembled like a mini fridge or things like that. Is that not part of those? Okay.
Yeah.
And then if it's
And
not,
it's all sourced out.
Okay.
It's not coming in town and sourcing it from local, it's all being brought in.
And there's been a lot of lessons learned through all these past camps about don't have many fridges, don't allow individuals to bring food back to their rooms because then it rots in there, it gets hidden, different things like that.
So I think there's gonna be like 10 staff between the cooks, the housekeeping, just everything. And then we'll just keep adding as we need to service the residents and that, make sure we have a nice clean facility and all that good stuff.
have you guys had a look at some of the, because it's going to come in by plane, I imagine. Have you looked at some of the, say, irregularities in freighters coming into the region? And have you planned for stores of food to accommodate for a potential, 5-day, is that sort of thing?
There's freezers within the facility, so big walk-in freezers, part of it, so, I would say yes.
And then our catering subs really is the one that's procuring all the food, so I do think they're flying all the food in, just kind of as you described, but Scott or myself, we're not necessarily involved in sourcing of the food.
Right. If the camp is fully staffed, 185 people, it's approximately 5% of the population of our entire village. And there are times when our entire village, just don't have milk for a week or something to that effect. And so I just encourage you guys to look at how much 180, how many people could eat. And I'd love to see something about sort of what your capacity would be for cut off from the rest of the world. How long can you feed everybody? That's something that
I think the caterers used to doing this in Alaska. I'm guessing that they're used to it. They're fully aware of how hard it is to do it throughout Alaska, because there's man camps throughout Alaska. We're doing quite a few of them all over, especially with the new gas line maybe going. The man camps has been a super big topic here recently, and the caterers. They're ones that have been doing it for 40 or 50 years. So,
I'll relay your message on the point very well taken to ensure that we don't get caught in a bind.
Any other councilman questions? Council member questions? Nope. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from the City of Nome's representative. That's our planner, Aaron. Aaron, can you hear us?
Dan, I am unmuted because I think you asked me to, but I cannot hear anything right now. So I'm not sure.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Was there a question? Because I can't hear anymore.
Okay, so we're turning the time over to you for our presentation.
Okay, great. I did hear the bulk of the presentation, so that I want to say, and that was very helpful, and so I appreciate it. I will just kind of add, did want to kind of give a bit of an overview on the memo that you guys should have in your packets, and kind of framing your discussion before you have the public hearing, and kind of begin your deliberation. So what is in your packet includes all of the application material that the applicant has just reviewed, as well as a memo toward the end where I provide a bit of a staff analysis. So I'm not going to get into the background of the application because that has already been done. So I will just kind of jump in that for crew camps specifically, code has 3 different use-specific safeguards that apply on top of the general conditional use criteria. So again, those safeguards are that it has to be tied to a specific and identified project, that the permit, that the conditional use permit is limited to the earlier of the project completion or 5 years after the building permit being issued. The third criteria, or the third safeguard, has to do is the requirement of a deconstruction and removal schedule that should be provided and updated on an annual basis. The general conditional use criteria, which I would imagine some of the planning commissioners might recall from yesterday's training session, really involve legal and plan conformance. So making sure it's in alignment with code and with the comprehensive plan, that it's compatible with the zoning district, that traffic and circulation is dealt with, that there's not undue burden onto the different public services and utilities. And then also there's a whole section on impact mitigation. So think environmental impact, safety issues, the visual impact, that sort of thing. So, so really there's, again, like there's kind of the 2 layers of review. So the one that's specific to the crew camps, and then the general conditional use review. I will say here, again, for those that were in training yesterday, this is definitely, this is in a commercially zoned district, and crew camps are identified as a conditional use in that district. So this is exactly the conversation that we should be having. So again, as we kind of walk through this, we remember that the conditional uses have greater or different impacts into the area than those by right uses, the ones that are just permitted. So the job of the Planning Commission tonight is to identify what those differences and impacts are. And kind of once you've worked through those, you can kind of figure out if the proposal already addresses that, or if a condition is needed to close that gap. And again, you can really just kind of use that criteria, that list of criteria, as your guide to how you can kind of determine what those differences are and what the impacts are. So the rest of the memo is really me walking through the criteria and safeguards for your consideration. So it lays out where the application itself really seems to address those criteria and safeguards, but also where a condition might be appropriate to help kind of close that gap and reduce the impact. So the memo also includes the suggested conditions in those instances. I would like to highlight a couple of those areas. One in particular, and I think this was just as my sound was going out, but I think I heard a question about this, but the application does reference existing and future projects pretty broadly. So the code, again, really talks about being tied to a specific project. So conditions 1 and 2 are provided there for to kind of tighten that up a little bit. The anticipated duration, according to the application, talks about 5 to 7 years. Code is pretty clear that 5 years is as long as it can go in the safeguards for crew camp. So conditions 3 and 4 are getting at that topic. So condition 3 really just reiterates the expiration date, and condition 4 requires the applicant to come back if more time is needed. So it doesn't just roll over, because again, that 5-year time point is what is in code. I will also call out on the traffic issue. There is some questions about the alleyways on the site. This is also outlined in the packet. It's not totally clear if these are right-of-way, driveways, or easements, and that designation matters, because if it's a right-of-way, then the setbacks would apply. And there's a section of the development that includes an external stairway, it looks like, and so that would fall within that 10-foot setback if that's a right-of-way. So that is worked in as a condition that would need to be clarified before the building permit is issued. There are a few other things that are outstanding, but can also be folded into that building permit process, like the utility confirmation, like written documentation of that, and some stormwater issues and that fire marshal approval. So that we can kind of note here as a condition, and then tie that to the building permit. That is all I have. I'm not going to read through all of the other conditions, but what is before you, really, if there are conditions that are being suggested, it is tied to that specific criteria, just so you can kind of link that together as you think through this application. That, I think I'll just stop there, but certainly happy to answer questions that you might have. assuming I can hear you. So I'm going to rely on Dan to translate for me.
Do any of the councilmen have any questions for Aaron?
And Dan, I'm not hearing you at all.
I'm waiting for them to give a question.
Good.
So these conditions that are as listed are Aaron's, they're recommended conditions, correct?
Right, so he's asking if the conditions that you've outlined in this memo are your recommended conditions.
Yes. Yep.
This is Councilman Melissa Ford. I'm wondering if these have been reviewed by legal counsel already?
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the council? Great. Thank you. We will recess into our public hearing time. I do ask that we keep our comments to under 2 minutes, please. If you're going to step up to say something and it's already been said, you can simply say that you're in support of the prior speaker. When you approach the podium, please do state your name and your interest. And Mr. Sparks.
My name is Tom Sparks. I've been a resident of Nome 46 years. I've lived at the end of Stedman for over 30. And I got a couple letters from the city of Nome about this project. One of them was about the variance that you guys already did. And it said the meeting was going to be in June. So I've been afforded the opportunity to sit down and perhaps look at some of the things that was hard to see, some of the maps and so forth. But I would ask some of the parking kind of concerns me because there's residential homes on the east side of Stedman, but not on the west side. So perhaps there could be some modifications where those vehicles could be parked on the west side of the man camp, for example. I'm not sure on the map exactly the way you get out to the bypass, but I think it's at the end of Stedman, the end of the block there. I don't know if that's true or not because the scale of the map, I couldn't see it. And then I guess, my concern is more long-term. God willing, I'll be another 30 years at Stedman. But I've seen these projects, where things don't leave Nome when they come in. And I think there's not too many blocks in Nome that are really developable here. This has got water and sewer, and it's got the infrastructure there. It's close proximity to the recreational center, to the school. So it would be a great place for people to put homes on in the future. So I like hearing that there may be a time frame here, like a 5-year time frame where those man camps go somewhere else. There's plenty of opportunity, I think, around town. So those are my comments, but I would really like Planning Commission to consider that parking on the west side. Early in the morning, particularly in winter, diesels start up, they run for a while. If there's 20 or 30 vehicles right across the street from my home, I'll definitely be hearing that noise and smelling those fumes. So just something to keep in mind. And there are a lot of kids that sled at the end of the hill there. It was a lot better before the museum and library. It was steeper. All my kids grew up there and the grandkids are out there too. But I think people are pretty aware of it and will, watch your children. And the only other thing that came to mind is that alley, because I know myself when I'm going to get gas, particularly in the winter, is I'll either cut across that. There used to be an open field until the gold company filled it in, or Bering Straits rather. But to go to the gas station for me is kind of difficult if I can't go through that platted alley. So I either have to go down Stedman and take a right on 5th. That intersection gets very icy in the winter. It tends to lose the snow and ice pretty early in the winter, so it's hard to run a snow machine there. So I don't know if there's a way to address that, but otherwise I'd have to go down the hill and zip up Dry Creek, and sometimes that can be difficult in the winter. So those are my comments, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sparks. Who's next? Two minutes.
2.5 minutes. Derek McClarty, citizen of Nome. I just want to do a quick, just kind of how we got here. In the 80s, same contractor lived in the community and built a port. In 2004, same contractor lived in the community, built a port. A bunch of vocal people talked about the housing crisis, which is real, and got the Corps to kind of throw it into the bid that, hey, you have to bring up a crew camp. And so that's kind of just the basis of why we're talking about a crew camp instead of them just living in the community like before. The city, should I say, offered a site that was out by the softball field, but, you know, no water, power was developable, but not there. No, just really obviously a non-starter. So this location was talked about and developed and came to this conversation where it's, you know, proximal to the job site. There's water, there's sewer, there's power. NJU likes it, the fire department likes it. Kind of gets 2 thumbs up on all of that. A few other things that I would like to, more like some Nome chatterness, but I would like to talk about it anyway. But, you know, I mean, I hear everybody saying this is a man camp, and that's just a universal term. You know, there's going to be men and women that live at this camp. And the concept of man camp and the historical traumas and the other things that I hear that come with it, that's really old school stuff. Like, that is so far back when man camp meant men living in these camps, and that was just the way it was. So I just kind of want to put a little bit of the kibosh to that speech because I just think it's inaccurate. And also, you know, these are going to be the same people that are working basically, I guess, kind of hand in hand with Stampede and Bering Straits and all of them anyway. I mean, they've got loaders, they've got trucks, they've got tractors. They start early in the morning. It's going to be the exact same kind of traffic, the exact same type of people in the same location. That seems pretty nice, in my opinion. And I guess instead of, you know, trying to push these people out of town and put all these weird stipulations on them, I think we should just welcome them to our community and let them enjoy the charm that is. I guess in closing, I support this project, this contractor, and this location.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Molly Kinnick and I am a citizen. I had just a few quick questions for you guys, if that's going to be okay. Oh, am I talking too quiet? Sorry.
You can pull the mic down too if you want, feel free to.
I think it's on.
Now it's on.
Thank you, Dan.
Can you hear me better?
Much better, thank you.
My name is Molly Kinnick and I'm a citizen. I have a couple questions, if that's okay. One of my first questions is, I can't remember exactly if it was addressed, but since the area you guys would be locating at is a non-residential area, what made you guys pick that out?
This isn't a question and answer format. If you have comments to make,
Okay.
you can make them, but we're not doing question and answer with them right now.
Sorry.
Thank you.
One of my biggest concerns would be environmental. I did hear you guys like briefly mention that there's going to be like spots that you guys are located in, where you guys are going to be regularly testing, but I would also like to know if you guys would, like, not question, but like just hoping you guys would be down the line testing outside of like any parameters, because if it did seem like you guys are doing quarry stuff as well as like seaport, it was kind of hard to tell because we were kind of just only talking about the camp, but just testing out the waters outside of it like a good ways, because a lot of pollution and stuff like that could be traveling through waterways, downstreams a good ways, as well as kind of making sure that the cars that you're using is like minimizing polluted areas, as well as like making sure you're testing permafrost levels in general as you guys are moving, because a lot of Anchorage Daily News and Alaska Dispatch were talking about how there was rising levels of metal leaching into the tundra and polluting it even more, and it making it really hard for wildlife. But that's kind of my biggest one. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Hello, my name is Walter Rose. I work for the Bering Straits Regional Housing Authority, but I'm here to speak my own opinion and not on their behalf. First of all, I appreciate all the effort that Kiewit Construction is putting in to mitigating the potential threats associated with a man camp right next to my home, 300 yards away from my home in Nome, Alaska. But I feel like we are being put between a rock and a hard place here, having to make a tough decision at the last minute, where we have to choose between the safety of our community and our loved ones. And I have two daughters, 19-year-old and a 21-year-old. Yeah, they come and go, but you know, if one of these construction workers treats them wrong, I mean, you know, that's a big concern. And I know that Nome is going to get rowdy. There is no stopping it with all these guys in the town. But on the other hand, we have this tremendous economic opportunity for our community to prosper into the future. I sat down with Senator Murkowski, with Senator Sullivan, with Congressman Begich about a month and a half ago, and what we were talking about is the need for housing in Nome, Alaska. You look at all the plans, they talk about the need for housing, but there is no investment coming in. And what I'm concerned about is the Native people that are living in our remote, isolated villages in really depressed economic conditions. Where is the opportunity for them in this whole thing? And Senator Murkowski had a great idea. She said, what about dual use infrastructure? What about building something so that when Kiewit Construction leaves, we have housing for Native workers to come in and get the good jobs and work? Well, that's one idea. So we're going to have to go with this, in my opinion. I mean, I have serious reservations about having a man camp 300 yards from my home. And I have serious reservations about drunk construction workers staggering up and down Stedman Avenue. But hey, we gotta do this. We gotta do it, you know, for the economic future of our community. And I sure hope you keep the Native people in mind and provide opportunity for the Native people along the way.
Thank you. John?
I'm John Handelin. I'm here on behalf of the Nome Joint Utility. I will commend the efforts of Kiewit to work with us in developing that area of town. One of the conditions in your permit is that it's being requested that the infrastructure being placed in 6th Avenue not be removed once it is placed there. Because there are other developments in that area once this man camp is not there anymore that would benefit it. There will be a section of the sanitary sewer that will be placed in 6th Avenue in discussion with Kiewit so that it isn't in an area that it needs to be ripped out, but it can benefit the community in the future when there's additional development that takes care of in that place. And then on my own note, Tom Sparks, the cook at Alaska Gold Man Camp, when I was out there managing 50 men, over 10 years, maybe 15, and I don't recall if it was once even that we were approached as the property owner by the police department because of an issue with our camp. It was more that we were calling the police to come and remove unregistered guests from the facility, including those that used a 16-foot ladder to get to the second floor. The stuff that Kiewit has put together here as far as their access plan with limited access, there's only going to be one way in and out. Having somebody that is actually there to monitor that 24 hours a day, and then having cameras available. The police department is only a heartbeat away, and if there was some reason why, I'm sure we could work with Kiewit to at least have direct access to the outside cameras that could be plugged directly into NPD if it was necessary. So I support this development. The idea of having a dual use on it, that was something that has come up many times as a desire, but without a contractor having been identified in advance in the timeline, the city simply could not work with the contractor to develop something that could be permanent. Just looking at the picture, looks like a pretty nice facility, and it can only stay there for 5 years, but we'll see what it looks like, and maybe there is some reason that just like the Garco building that is utilized out by the port, that was something built by Kiewit when they were here in 2004 or so, and the city still bought that asset for pennies on the dollar and still utilizes that today. So I guess in my mind, I have not closed the idea that maybe there is some value to the community for what they are building already. It might not be the ideal setup, but we had a hotel that used to sit on the corner over here that burnt down on Halloween. We had another one that had the back end of it burned out with the Murbach. And in trying to get people to come to Nome, a lot of people want to come here, but there's no place to put them. So I'm kind of looking and with anticipation to seeing this facility. We've been working on this port for, well, it was well before they started building the first one. And I believe that Kiewit, when they were here before, I worked with them when I was at Alaska Gold. They're a very reputable company, and they're not going to let the Peter Kiewit name get soiled by nonsense. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I'm Melanie Banky with Kiewit. I want to thank the Planning Commission for having this meeting, and I want to thank Kiewit and Bering Straits Native Corporation also. And I just wanted to let you know that Kiewit is setting up our own meeting. We've asked Larry Peterson with Bering Straits Native Corporation to help set up a meeting with us and Kiewit and Bering Straits Native Corporation. We didn't want to take up a lot of time here. We wanted the public to be able to have their time with you, and I just wanted to let you guys know that's why we're just here to listen. Not that we're being silent. We wanted the public, the citizens, to be able to have their time. So we're just here kind of listening, but wanted folks to know we're not saying anything or not having questions, in case you're wondering why we're just kind of sitting over there. Thanks.
Thank you, Melanie.
My name is Jeremy Jacobson, and I'm a Nome resident. And I thought a lot of the safety measures were really great. I guess I would just ask the commission to attach enforceable conditions to any approval. And when it's written out, it's going to be a lot better than just a handshake. But otherwise, I think that the Port of Nome project is very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Ayek, and I'm a community member. And, you know, of course, I have reservations being a parent and a community member. And, you know, I think one of my biggest concerns is, you know, I think semantics matter. When you say zero tolerance, and then, you know, you say that there's maybe not, it depends, you know. I think that's, you know, you got to be careful with the words you use. And I also think, you know, when we say that it's a man camp, we need to call it what it is. This is a predominantly, right, a workforce that is, it's dominated by men, right? And let's call it what it is. It's a man camp. And when we say this is you know, this is historic traumas, no, these are traumas that are happening right now. They're still happening. And you know, we in our faces. And I think that we need to know that these are, you know, these are happening still. And so when we place and distance ourselves and we're not speaking what's actually happening of, you know, our sexual violence, domestic violence against our women and children, and, you know, against men, right? Not to say, you know, you know, you see it down here all the time, right? There's, like I say, you know, I have reservations, right? With more people coming in, there's going to be more human interaction, and I think, yeah, you know, like one thing, you know, I'm not one to stand up and voice my opinion, but you know, it's like I said, semantics matter. And when you say zero tolerance, like I'm like, okay, great, zero tolerance, no alcohol. Like, you know, everyone's going to be breathalyzed. And then like, oh no, actually, it's going to be up to whoever's up at the front desk. And then I'm thinking, okay, how are they trained? Are they going to be like, da 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 da? Like my mind's going a million miles a minute. Anyways, I'll keep it short. Thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Hi, my name is Amber Oten, and I'm just speaking as a citizen here in Nome, and then I also work in the Foster Building. And just some data for you guys at the Planning Commission to consider is there's roughly 9 of us that work in there year-round. They do have some summer interns, both in the Katilvik side and also in the library side, maybe even in the museum, but there's a solid 9 of us. Of the 9, 8 of us are women, and of the 8, 4 of us are Native women. And so I do share concerns that Kim just mentioned, and I've talked with 3 of the women in the Foster Building, and we are concerned about safety being right across the street from the man camp. And some ideas we talked about was it would be nice to have, maybe an officer come and just watch us as we go to our cars at lockup, maybe somebody who's there in the building while we're locking it down. That's just something that we all worry about. And we also were concerned about of, the 186 of them. I don't know if they have internet in their man camp, but I could see a lot of them coming to our building and using our internet and using the restrooms and just that's one concern. But the biggest one is we've all, just the 4 of us that have talked, we've said we're concerned about safety. And yeah, someone mentioned maybe a security guard. I'm just thinking of when I was in college, it was nice when we had evening classes and we'd go to our vehicles. It was nice to just call campus police and they'd just be there and make sure we got to our car safely. But yeah, really agree with what Kim said, and I really thank you guys for taking public comment.
Thank you. Anyone else? We are here to hear your comments, so Ms. Cussy?
I'll tell you a story. I got 74 years worth of stories in this town to tell. When I was 13, my dad put me behind the wheel of a dump truck that we couldn't even see over the top of. We built a lot of things in this town, and we built a lot of things out of town. We built the roads that people enjoy going to their camps. We lived out at the Kuzatrine for 2 years. We built Bering View. 50 house pads we built, covered up all the water and sewer. We did a lot. We dug the hole for the federal building. My dad did that when I was a little girl. We were known as the scabs in town because we weren't union. We were just family. We had to eat at a different table when we went to Chuck Volkheimer's dinner hall that he had down the street here. I have a lot in front of my house. It's 250 feet by 160. It wasn't big enough. I would have invited you guys to come on down because I've been waiting for the city to put water and sewer down for me for 35 years. I think we should be welcoming this group into our town. I don't think they're bringing enough graders because keeping that road bladed between here and Cape, one that I see on that screen, is not going to cut it, so you better bring a few more. There's a lot of people going to be camping down that way this summer, all the way from mile 13 and even before, from the Cape to safety and on to council. My sister has a slogan, drive safely to safety, because the roadhouse will be open. We don't need no mess down there on that road while you guys are hauling. Keep it watered down and flat. Nome is going to be very, very, very different from here on out. With our climate changing, talking about putting boats here, wintering boats. I don't know if these guys are going to be here during the winter, if they're working the winter. Things are going to get very different. Most of the locals will be heading for the hills. I don't know if they're working during the winter months, and if they're planning to keep their activities going, you know, all year round, because that'll be something different. We usually kind of, things quiet down in the winter. Anyway, I know you guys have taken a lot of heat for trying to get this thing together and lined out for the community and put your best foot forward. And I just want to thank you for that, because I worked for your same employer for 38 and a half years. I know what it's like. So thank you again.
Thank you, Cassie. Anybody else? Okay. At this point in time,
Before we go into the deliberation, can we ask a couple more questions from the applicant? Are you okay with that? Just one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you guys choose this location?
First, we'd just like to thank the audience, everybody that came up and recognize everybody's concerns and the comments that you bring up. And truly, what they're going through, do want to address them, and they are a shared concern with ourselves. And so, do know that you're not in a chamber by yourselves. We are one team here and want to be part of the community. So, I appreciate the comments. We chose this site based upon the zoning. The zoning requirements kind of limited you to industrial zoning areas. There was about 3 potential options here. The other sources or sites didn't provide the needed services, utilities, build out paths. And so this was the most developed, ready to go site that would facilitate the size that we needed. We did try to downsize it to have that minimal footprint there, but really zoning wise what drove us to this location.
This size of facility needs sprinklers, and so water was a huge component for that. And if you don't have a water source, you don't have this building, you cannot do that. And then the second thing is sanitary. If you look at it, it's typically a certain person uses about 80 gallons of, creates about 80 gallons of waste a day. If you provide 80 gallons of waste a day to 200, you're talking 20,000 gallons of sewage, and the safety and sanitation of hauling that or trying to create something in that effect is really, really super tough to overcome. So everything led us back to a site that had available sewer, had available water for sprinklers. So sanitation and safety drove a lot of this. And then in looking at the zoning code, it did say that crew camps were available in these zoning districts. And so we felt like we knew we'd have to explain and have a program and a facility and an operating plan to meet those criteria. And in just Kiewit's general operations, they do that anyway. So we felt like it would, it'd be worth it moving toward, for safety and sanitation, this site. That's why this site became the one we pushed for hardest.
Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing's ended. We'll deliberate before voting. It did. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, I heard people talking about the concern about Kiewit. Kiewit construction is residential. Years ago, no they tell about having a halfway house on Main Street. These are criminals, they're murderers, they're rapists. Has anything happened from the halfway house? It's on Main Street and they saw it. I'm against the court. I have been because I don't think we have the revenue to keep it going. But obviously it's here. And I support them building this facility because there's no housing. It's a bad deal. You can't have a convention here. There's no hotel left other than the Aurora. And the people coming and going, working and jobs, they need a hotel to go to. But I think that if there's any issues down the road with Kiewit, they'll deal with it. That's who they are. When they came to town the last two times, there's been no issues. They accidentally put a hole in the line that said the sewer and water ponds up above. No issues with admitting to it and dealing with it. Don will remember that. I was listening to the facilities. They're not a fly-by-night outfit. And obviously they're huge, and I think they'll do a good job. If they jobs to know, my wife and I walked Main Street, usually Friday, Saturday night. There used to be 150 cars on Main Street. They're like if there's 5 cars downtown on Friday or Saturday night. No one is dying. The downtown is dying. Something has to turn this around. You'll have people in town working. Obviously, lots of traffic on the road this last summer with all the yellow cars that, they have to live with it. I've been here 70 years and something has to change. And I think this is a good deal. I should say, I don't know how we're going to pay for this sport, but it's too late to stop it now. So I just want to say a few words. I saw this on TV, so I said I'd come and speak out. But yeah, they're good people. They employ a lot of people down here, and if there's people that want to work, I'm sure they'll be able to find a job. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, and we're going to close public hearing, for real. So now is the time for open discussion with the council. Oh, go ahead.
Motion made.
Make it.
Yes, sorry. Can we, does anyone want to make a motion to? Councilman Oden made a, with Councilman McCann. Any discussion?
I think still my biggest concern is the mitigation of the traffic routes and that section. I think all the other pieces that they've addressed mitigate the conditions that we're required to look at to approve this. So yeah, I really would like to see, some other chosen route than what was displayed there. And perhaps with Aaron's help, we could draft something that addresses that. But I think that's outside of the items that she's presented to us that I would accept. I'd like to see something done different with that gold access road and going down that way.
I'd like to make sure we have, the dust is dealt with. That's a little bit more clear method of deciding how much dust is allowable. Who's going to make sure it happens, suppression happens.
That's a good point into what someone said in the public. Yeah, that's a good point into what we heard in the public comment period about people with monitoring and looking at that, is there a measure of dust level that could be in place that the plan is then followed at that level?
Drew, I'm going to roll this back a little bit. You had mentioned that you had concerns with the traffic. Is there a motion that you would like to put forth, such as looking at alternatives to that, what they've proposed? Being a requirement that they look at alternatives? Or?
Are we able to ask staff questions? Is that? Yeah, okay. 6th Avenue is currently there, so it's not future 6th Avenue, I think, if I'm correct. That front part of it you can drive on now is there, and that's 6th Avenue, right?
Bearing Street's developed 6th Avenue, that's correct.
And it's currently developed?
Yes.
To what street?
To Division.
Okay, is it platted beyond that for 6th Avenue, or is there other access that could go to the highway from there?
G Street's but on the way.
Opposite direction,
Right.
to the highway towards AC's.
I don't think so.
Right?
Yep. Is that
It's not developed right now.
but is it platted?
What do you mean, is it platted?
Is it platted as 6th Avenue all the way through?
It's in the right way, yes.
I believe a portion of that has been vacated.
Yeah, I
So
don't
a
think,
portion of it's narrowed down, so it's not as big as it was when it was Norton Sound. A portion of it was vacated. It is still there. There is still some 7th Avenue behind it. 7th Avenue has Bering Straits properties, and then you have one Norton Sound
it
lot.
doesn't, it runs into Dry Creek there.
It runs into
It
that.
doesn't go to the highway.
Either we'd be able to have Scott pull the drawing back up. Would you be able to pull the drawing, the traffic pattern back up?
Or Nome
I don't think-
GIS. Nome GIS would work.
Yep.
And Nome GS would be a better one.
Do you think you might feel more comfortable if this exit route essentially just went south a block and then directly to Bering, as opposed to through that section where we do know that kids play and it also crosses the Foster Building front?
I see it as one of two options, and not the one presented.
So the far right side is the lot they're proposing on putting it on. And then so there's on the top right, that's the Foster Building roof.
So this is where the road currently has been connected to the rest.
This is developed right here. Yeah.
Okay. And so either, I think one of two options, either going out 6th, and yes, you're going to residential, or coming out 6th and hitting Bering and getting to the highway as quick as possible here. I don't see 30 vehicles passing back and forth at that pinch point as a reasonable route with the summer and winter traffic that goes through there.
It's a great bike.
Yeah, I don't
The
know.
kids.
Dave,
Kids
I
down
don't
there
think they have
biking
a problem
hard
with
also.
adjusting.
We're good with being flexible and whatever works for the city of Nome in that respect.
Slide, can you slide to the west again? So you go right out to,
So honestly, that's the better option.
that's a steep hill right there.
It would have to be developed. But I know that one takes more time, so I'm not, gonna put somebody on the hot burner that's expecting to put a project up this summer to finish the roads for the city. Even if it does alleviate a ton of traffic in residential and children-heavy traffic areas. I think it also kind of talks to alleviating, any of the traffic and interactions that they have with people at the Foster Building if they're coming out this way or this way.
And having parking on that side might be better too. So you would like to see the traffic flow go down 6th to
Spokane.
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 Yeah, there's less residential in that
Spokane
area.
would be the usable one.
And,
That'd be the best.
Aaron, would that be something that we would list as a condition for the building permit approval, or what would that look like in terms of a condition?
6 to division.
She can't hear you because you're speaking away from the mic.
Aaron, what would a condition look? Oh, this way? No, that's not what I was like. Aaron, what would a condition look like that enforce the route of traffic from the site and to the site?
That's gonna cause a huge traffic jam there.
Okay, so
On 6th
I
Avenue.
heard the
To Fifth.
question of what would the condition look like for a route to get to the site, but I did not hear the discussion. So are we talking about, so I guess I'll throw it back at you. What are you trying to get folks to construct something or to commit to a route?
Yeah, to commit to a route. The avoidance of Alaska Gold Access Road and that hill behind the rec center as their access.
Is that, the applicant had shown during their presentation a route. Is that something that you were objecting to, or is that what you want to hold them to?
Objecting to.
Okay. Do we have an alternative route to
I would
say that
like
we
to-
want them to take?
I would like to see 7th extended, personally.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I
Do
would
we have
like
an
to see
alternative
7th
route?
for extended to meet in, to run into the Belts Highway.
I think it can. I think there's too much of a grade difference and wetland.
This right here?
Yeah.
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 So there's that wetland.
It's very
right
steep
there.
wetland. It's huge.
Okay, pull
Okay,
up maps.
So.
Yeah, so
There you go. Perfect.
that
would be,
subject
water.
I mean, it's platted.
So Aaron, there's there's a few things that we just discussed. One is requiring the extension of 6th Avenue to the highway, or 2 is 7th Avenue, or 3 is an alternate route that comes to Spokane and goes to 5th and out to the highway. Alternate 4 was to go directly out 6th and then come over to the highway on the other side of the new softball fields G.
I would suggest that I'm not going to be able to come up with a good condition for that if there's like 4 alternatives. I would say, and so like I would say, one approach could be that there is a condition that requires the applicant to submit a routing plan, a transportation route plan for, and you could associate that with the building permit, prior to the building permit. You could have that reviewed by staff, or you could require that to come before the planning commission to make sure that you're okay with that specific condition. Those are some ideas I can think of right now.
I think that needs like a work session or that's just going to take that's a big decision. It's going to have a lot of impact. It'll really mess traffic flow up.
Does any of that sound?
So we better think
You
about
can't
that.
hear us, but we're discussing more.
Okay.
I agree, but I also know that that's the one site that it's currently routed through is absolutely not something that I'm comfortable with.
We better figure it out though. I mean, we got to think about this.
So I think I like Aaron's suggestion to submit a clarified route and parking for approval. They can look at what's going to work best for them, and hearing our concerns, that will give them an opportunity to come back with that plan. How does that sound?
That's what I would be comfortable with. I don't
What's
think
that?
it needs to come back to the planning commission. I would be comfortable with it just staying with the building permit, with staff, and be a condition of the building permit that they. Should we relay that to Aaron?
Between 5th and 6th. Spokane and maybe partially vacated, so I'm not sure that we can use that as an alternative.
But our options are give them some time to decide. So Aaron, we discussed that we would like to go with the condition of requiring on the building permit approval by staff, a plan for traffic and parking to be presented with as a condition with the building permit, not to the planning commission, but with staff.
So, I heard travel and parking. Let's be specific where that parking is an issue.
Some of the feedback we heard from the community was that they were concerned about parking along Stedman, specifically, parking along Stedman.
So I think your condition would want to, if you are allowing for staff to review and approve that and are kind of directing the applicant to do something, to do something different, the condition should say something about, to reduce or eliminate. I wasn't able to hear all the comments of the parking along Stedman, and then specifically say some of the routing concerns so that, so everybody knows the parameters to be working under.
I'm good with it coming back to the planning commission.
Yeah, I think the planning commission should have it.
Yeah. Um, Are we going to move the mic?
Yes.
Oh, good, thank you.
He gave me hear you.
Oh.
So that everybody can see your back now, so that's what they're gonna be watching.
Okay.
We got
It's still on.
Okay.
So Aaron, can you hear us?
I can hear that last question you just said. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
I couldn't hear anything before that.
We had Dan move, so maybe you'll be able to hear us all. I think the consensus, coming back to that first condition was that it comes back to the planning commission. I'm sorry, not city staff for that approval. And the concerns specific to the traffic route were, the Alaska Gold Access Road behind the rec center it has a good curve in it, but it also has a lot of children activity with sledding, with snow machine crossing, with bicycles going in that direction. So it's mainly to alleviate the congestion in that area with those activities. And the parking piece was noted that with diesel vehicles or with vehicles that have to run for a while to start in the morning, that smog, for my interpretation of it, is that smog would have to go somewhere. And that side of Stedman, or that part of Stedman, is closer to residential areas and houses than the east side of that property.
I think it was the overall effect, because I mean, you're going
Or
to have
west side of the property.
sound. 60 vehicles parked, so you're going to have 30 headlights shining on unless they turn their lights off when they start their trucks. Like, they're going to be going out shining on people's houses and everything. So I think that was part of the concern as well.
Okay. What you can't see right now is I'm madly typing, trying to get a condition drafted for you guys. So hang on. So I think
About dust. So while you're composing that, do you mind if we talk about the next topic? Okay. So dust is definitely a concern, and I think one of the things I heard was who determines when the call for dust occurs.
And what are the limits?
What's
the trigger?
tangible measurement, air quality,
Some kind of accountability.
a metric.
Yeah.
Something.
Or even just a regular schedule. We saw it at the end of last year, right? When there was a lot of traffic going, and the temperature and weather conditions were such that just sits in the air and doesn't move along.
I don't know about regular schedule, just because I've also seen a month of rain. And I don't want them out there wasting time with that.
No, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a reason for it. Trigger point.
Is there a correlation to how many vehicles pass with how much dust kicks up that you think could be measured?
Honestly, I don't know enough about dust. I don't know enough. You're over here raising your hand. I'm gonna allow it.
Last year with the big truck haul, and dust did get out of control. I think we're here for this property. We're gonna have the dust palette. It's gonna be very easy for us to control this parking area and put that down. Also, we'll have water on site, and as well as people working. So for some reason, if it ever gets dry out there, we have the means to go sprinkler it without running even a water truck down there. So it'll be very easy to control the dust on this piece of property. So I just wanted to kind of add that. I do think with the road conversation of longer dust hauls and stuff, that's kind of a little bit different. That's being addressed with DOT and these other means.
Right. So do we want to make building inspector someone who would be able to say there's too much dust, you need to moisten it?
We already have a committee.
Okay.
NEC,
the state, DOT,
Okay.
the city.
We're not talking about the roads, we're
Yes.
talking about on this property.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to make, the roads,
Okay.
so just, and I thought I heard somebody say the whole road. No,
No, we're talking just
We're not
about
saying-
the property. Right.
The 6th is paved, right?
6th is paved, so.
And without the trucks driving around a lot, I mean, there's gonna be a big, huge building on this property, not spaced for trucks to do Brodies and kick up dust. So if we're looking at
5th is paved.
fifth, yeah, fifth is. So that's one of the alternate routes that we discussed was coming down Spokane to Fifth and to the highway.
Mhm.
So I don't know that there's a condition that you put on a particular site for dust when I think a lot of us, our brains are going outside of the site.
Okay, so are we gonna scratch that?
All right, yeah, we can scratch it.
Scratch it?
Yep.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Are we trying to avoid all parking along Stedman?
I believe so. You have residential homes. It's all residential on that Stedman. And that's also the main path that people from the rec center are going to be walking by. So they're going to be breathing the diesel fumes or the vehicle fumes. The people from Foster Building, same thing.
Would that affect, just Aaron's question made me think, would that affect existing property owners' access to, I mean, I'm just thinking, are there any people that use Stedman for parking now on that end?
Ask the guy that knows. Parking.
Like it's street parking
You're talking about the west side, or are you just talking about in front of their homes?
in front of their homes, not in the street.
Okay.
But the planned parking for them would be the concern.
Okay.
Okay.
This way, on the back side of the building is a fire line all the way around the building for fire access purposes. So it's not like you can just line up the parking on the back side, because that's where the fire department's coming in for fighting, having to have access around the whole building. So we were kind of locked into kind of where that parking is. But on that 7th side, or on the Stedman side, if you're looking at, there is enough maneuvering on the site that you can, if it's the light that you're worried about, I mean, we could probably come in with, they can work out angle parking or something rather than back in, so then the lights aren't facing right across the street. I mean, we're trying to keep it on the property that we have under negotiation with Barron Straits, not over on another property. That's part of the off-street parking requirements that we're trying to do. And so I think part of the building permit, we're willing to work with whoever as part of the to meet the kind of needs that you're talking about. There is some constraints with regard to the property and the fire access, and so I just want to make sure you understood.
Is there room on the west side of the buildings before you start getting into the existing buildings to do any parking over there? Is that all? I mean, I believe you
I don't
had.
think that was part of the land, that's part of the lease agreement at this point in time, and I would think Barron Straits has other uses probably for that, but that's, I mean, we don't, I guess, ask that question, but there is a 25-foot fire railing on the backside of that building, and you can see it in the submittal package.
I think I'd like to see an exploration of other parking options. So Bering Strait certainly does have other properties around there, vacant land right there, right across the street. So maybe the parking lot needs to be not next to the building, if that's what needs to happen. But I'd like to see that explored at least.
I agree.
Okay. So we're just asking for an exploration, okay? We're not making a decision on this today. Thank you. Let's see. So one of the things that the public comments were, there was a comment about enforceable conditions for violations of the things we've set out. For instance, 5 years comes and goes and they're still there. Or do we have something already in there for that?
It's revocable.
It is revocable?
It says condition number 2 or 3 was that it's revocable.
Okay.
Wasn't originally like 5 years?
It's 5.
About it anyway, like you guys didn't have, wasn't the original, when we went through this a month ago or whatever it was for the last meeting, I didn't recall there being a 5 to 7 year, it was always 5 years and capped at that. When did it go from 5 to 7? Was that prior to this or was that just for this meeting?
I think it was prior to this and we must have missed it. And so we went back to try to make it back to 5. Really where kind of the backstory is with the Nome Causeway development. They broke that up now into multiple phases. Potentially that's going to last a little bit longer than the 5 years. Additionally, the Barrow Coastal Erosion Project, where we're producing rock out of the Cape Nome Quarry, they're anticipating about 1 million tons worth of rock. Last year we shipped about 100,000 tons. And so they're giving those task orders every year. We're anticipating task order 2 to be coming. And so potentially that project in itself is a 7 to 8 year project to get through there. So early on, we were throwing out some of those longer timelines, but we've kind of revised that back to making sure we just do the 5 years per this, the terms and the agreements. And then here in maybe 5 years, if things are still going, we understand we'd have to re-go through this entire same process if that was even a thought at that time.
I think one of the conditions that she suggested states that.
It does.
Yeah. I think we're fine with that.
So right now, I mean, this site is the easiest, best one for you guys to use is what it comes down to, right? So that's also going to be the case 5 years from now. So what's to say that we don't have another meeting 5 years from now and you're like, hey, this is the best, easiest spot for us to go. Let's just keep extending and extending. And at what point is it no longer just a temporary use? And you guys have taken a large chunk of land that could have been used for housing at any point if Bering Straits is willing to sell it for that.
Our contract with the Army Corps of Engineers requires that we remove our camp at the end of the contract. And so even right now, it's under this first phase, which we'd have to work through there. I think to just address your concern there is we want to be here as long as there's a need for Kiewit. And if there's a need for Kiewit, it makes sense that we'd stay here. But again, our intention was to remove this camp, not change any of the lot lines, and so it could go right back to residential and not impact the community.
So at the end of this job, you have to take it out.
Currently, yep, that's what the contract has.
So even without the city's requirements, when we're done, we have to, per our agreement with the Corps, it says we'll take it out.
So it is very clear in the conditions that are set forth that it is revocable. So if they do fail to address the safety issues that we've heard concerns from the public,
If you adopt that condition.
if we adopt that condition, sorry. And certainly, they've said that they're going to have that staff person at the entrance to help protect our public, our people who are walking our citizens. They're going to take that additional step. And I feel that we've heard that they do plan, if we went to them and said, one of the conditions we're going to add now, after the fact, is we want a security guard. I feel like they are going to be willing to provide that if it means we're going to pull this permit from them, because we have that in this condition that we're looking at. So I think that we have some really good conditions laid out. The one that I do feel we need to address is the traffic. So with Aaron's help, hopefully we can get that. Now, do we need to go through each point of order? Do we need to go through each one of the conditions and make a motion, or can we
You can do them as blocked together, but it needs to be very clear what that entails and which one. If you're using what she's given, I want to know exactly, it needs to be clear and on the record what conditions you're imposing or that you're asking for, and what is being adopted and voted on, and that needs to be clear with all of them.
Okay, excellent. Aaron, how's it going with the verbiage?
Have in the, which I'm doubting anybody else can see, but I have 2 conditions drafted and put into the Zoom chat. I was like I can read them, but then I was thinking that it might be like Dan might be able to copy and put it into something so that for easy record keeping. Can I read them to you? Would that work?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So basically I split it up into 2 different ones because they were slightly different purposes. But and these can be revised as you guys see fit, but applicant shall develop and submit a traffic routing plan to avoid travel on Alaska Gold Access Road to the Planning Commission for their review and approval prior to the issuance of a building permit, which I did not spell correctly in this chat. So that's one. And then very similarly structured, applicant shall develop and submit a revised parking plan so that no parking is proposed along Stedman to the Planning Commission for their review and approval prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Any tweaks on that? Does somebody?
I think they both are pretty good.
The second one doesn't give any alternate, right? So as long as we're comfortable with that, I am.
So we're not directing them how to do it. We're directing them that we'd like to see let them explore it. It's, you know.
Commission, I would suggest that if the way this is currently drafted, someone who is not trying to meet the spirit of the conversation in the room right now really could submit a plan that has removed the parking from Stedman and not provided anymore. So that really could be tweaked. Like if your intention is to maintain the total number of parking spaces that are currently on the site plan, that should be worked in.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yep.
Okay.
If I may, Drew, I'd like to just talk to you and you all as well. You know, thinking of the current proposed route and the reality that there is a significant amount of vehicles and traffic and existing community engagement in some of these areas near that sledding hill as well as Foster Building. Would we potentially look at maybe an emergency call button that could be put under somewhere near that awning for the Foster Building? Kids are always playing in more than one. I do not often see just one kid, but to think that one of them could run and press a button, or an employee who's trying to leave could have access to something that we had on college campuses a lot whenever I was going. So something of that nature that just gives an emergency beacon to our emergency responders in the local area in case, heaven forbid, something happens. With that, well, I understand. I recognize it might set a precedent for something different, but is that something that you guys would consider? Not in lieu of a different route. I want to see these other routes explored, but I would really, I'm asking what you guys would think about something like that as something that Kiewit would be responsible for implementing in these areas that we know we're going to have more people present.
Let's put a pin in it. I think that's I like that you're thinking outside the box, right? I think that's a good, always good to look at any option that might work. Let's see what they come up with. Let's give them a chance to come up with a plan.
Yep.
And then we can look at alternatives like that. I do like that though.
I will say, just to kind of what we talked about at the work session yesterday, I don't think an alternate that would satisfy at least me on the planning commission would be to put a flashing light there and call it good. We talked about that as an avenue to avoid congestion and make awareness in areas where there's traffic coming through, but that doesn't do it for me.
No, and you've got your skate park, and I know the kids are BMXing there during that high peak construction time.
The utilities
we're
did
done.
put a light pole, I think, on that corner, and it hasn't been there that long, that I think maybe 5-6 years. And so I don't remember what the front of the library and museum, the Foster building, has for lighting. But it might be beneficial to look at additional lighting if it needs to be there. I know we're talking about the summertime when it's going to be light most of the time, but it gets dark in the later part of the year and for a couple hours in the summer.
I think we did have something in here about lights.
Well, my suggestion was just as an avenue for communication from the community members that are already in these places and will continue to inhabit these spaces regardless of this man cam. Just to give them the Garmin, the SOS button. You just get the cavalry coming if something ever did arise.
Yeah, and they have the cabs that were like that. I mean, it's the same kind of concept, like the phones where you pick up the phone on the college campuses, things like that. That's what you're talking about, right? Something like
To a
that.
degree, yeah.
I think that would be a great thing community-wide for the Public Safety Commission to discuss.
Okay. So, do we want to make a motion with the first one that she has? Because that one was, except for the spelling.
So is it an amendment of the motion that we already made to accept these conditions? Or what is the
motion was to approve the conditional use. The new motion would be to add conditions A through X, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, or whatever. I just need to know what those are.
So we would make a motion to accept this with the following conditions.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I'll just add that two things. One, I've revised both conditions. The first one just minor, so I can read both of those to you. Those are in the chat. Second, if you approve the condition, like if you are interested in improving all of the conditions that are in the memo, I would suggest that you say 1 through, I think there's 15. So 1 through 15. If you take some out, be aware that there are references to the condition numbers throughout. So I would suggest we label the conditions as they are labeled in the memo. And then it might end up that somebody, has a list of conditions and no condition 4 as an example, but that way everything kind of holds. So just minor nitty gritty detail for you guys to consider if you're thinking of pulling some out.
Let's go through the conditions one at a time then. The first condition is condition 1. Conditional use permit is expressly limited to the Cape Nome quarry operations and Port of Nome expansion. Use of the facility to support additional or different projects shall require a new or amended conditional use permit subject to full public hearing review. We want that?
Yep.
Yes. Condition 2. Applicant shall provide documentation confirming the scope and terms of its project contracts and shall notify the city clerk in writing through the designated point of contact identified in condition 10 within 30 days of any material change in the scope or status of the tied projects.
Yep.
Yes or no? Yes. That's condition 1 and condition 2. Condition 3. The CUP shall expire on the earlier of substantial completion of the Cape Nome quarry operation and Port Nome projects are substantially complete, or 5 years from the date of issuance of the building permit for the crew camp. On the earlier of, yes. Agreed?
Yes.
Great. Condition 4, if the applicant determines that the continued use beyond the 5-year term is necessary for any reason, including project delays, a new CUP application must be filed by the designated point of contact pursuant to condition 10 and approved prior to the expiration date. Failure to have an approved application on file before said expiration shall render the facility out of compliance. Yes?
Yes.
Condition 5, pursuant to the codes, this cup is revocable. The city manager or designee is authorized to enforce compliance if the facility is used for projects not authorized under condition 1, or if the applicant fails to meet any of the other provisions, standards, or development schedules prescribed within these conditions. If the city manager determines the facility is out of compliance, they may initiate proceedings to correct the violation or refer the matter to the Planning Commission for revocation hearing. Yes?
Yes.
Condition 6, a date-specific deconstruction plan and schedule shall be provided to the city clerk by the designated point of contact pursuant to condition 10, no later than 12 months following CUP issuance and updated annually on or before each anniversary. Yes?
Yes.
All water and sewer infrastructure shall be permitted to remain following the deconstruction of the facility to facilitate future site development. The status and plan preservation of these utilities shall be included in the annual deconstruction plan and schedule updates provided to the city clerk pursuant to condition 6.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
I guess just really quick on that last condition. I think my only hesitation is if they have a obligation under a contract with the Army Corps to deconstruct, but a portion of this is a condition to say you're not deconstructing, is there a conflict there? Yeah.
We try to phrase this so that they are allowed.
Okay.
So they're not, so basically this is setting up a scenario where, because we are requiring that deconstruction plan, this is just stating it's okay to leave that infrastructure behind for future use. So yeah, it's just kind of setting that stage up.
Shall be permitted.
All right, I'm going to read each one of these because a lot of the members of the public don't have this in front of them. Okay. Condition 8, prior to building permit issuance, the applicant shall provide a written statement from the qualified engineer confirming that the installation will not redirect stormwater onto adjacent properties or public rights of way, and describing the drainage approach to be employed on site. Condition 9, the conditions of the approved variance and encroachment permit are incorporated herein by reference and shall be treated as conditions of the CUP.
Yes.
Is that affirmative?
Yes.
Thank you. Condition 10, the applicant shall designate a single point of contact for the crew camp who is authorized to receive notices, submit required reports, and coordinate responses to compliance matters related to this conditional use permit. The point of contact's name, title, phone number, and email address shall be provided to the city clerk as a condition of this approval prior to issuance of the building permit and updated in writing within 10 business days of any change. Notices and required submittals under this permit shall be provided through the designated point of contact to ensure clear and consistent communication with the city.
Yes.
Affirmative?
Yes.
Condition 11, prior to building permit issuance, the applicant shall provide written confirmation from NJUS committing to serving the facility. Okay. Traffic circulation. The application restricts tenants from having personal vehicles and relies on approximately 60 Kiewit vehicles. Oh, where'd I go? Sorry.
On the back of that page, I think, Melissa. Nope, on the back of that one.
14?
No.
It's, I'm pretty sure I saw it on the back of that
Otherwise, you go
that page.
I was way up here, yeah, I was way up here. Condition 12, prior to building permit issuance, the applicant shall confirm in writing the road, driveway, or easement status of all alleyways within the development footprint and demonstrate that applicable setbacks are satisfied. Yes? The restriction on crew camp tenants having personal vehicles is incorporated as a condition of this approval. Any change to the vehicle operations program shall be reported to the city clerk in writing through the designated point of contact identified in condition 10 within 30 days. The city will evaluate and determine at its sole discretion whether the change is consistent with the conditional use permit, whether it is permitted, whether the change is substantial enough to warrant a formal determination by the planning commission or a request for an amendment.
Yes.
I feel like that needs to be reworded somehow because they've said that they're allowed to have vehicles, but they just can't keep them, they can't store them there. Right? So storage would be the only issue because we don't necessarily care if they have vehicles as long as they don't apply to this site, correct?
So Aaron, that would be the restriction on crew camp tenants having personal vehicles on site is incorporated as a condition of this
And this is
approval.
just what I was gonna suggest to you.
Okay.
Just add that on. And that would need to be a specific motion.
Yeah, motion to amend.
Motion to amend the condition 13 to specify on-site.
Yep.
All approved?
Yep.
Melissa?
Oh, good. Chairman's allowed to.
You want an aye?
The chair can in this one.
Aye.
Say aye.
Say aye. Sure.
13, 14. Sure, I'm wrong. Okay, condition 14. Prior to building permit issuance, the applicant shall provide the city clerk with copies of the Alaska State Fire Marshal's approval. Yes.
That's a yes.
Condition 15, the facility's activity levels, traffic, noise, hours of operation, erosion and sediment control measures, and dust, as well as building external layout type, style, and scale, shall be consistent with the approved application. Any change shall be reported to the city clerk in writing through the designated point of contact identified in condition 10 within 30 days. The city will evaluate and determine at its sole discretion whether the change is consistent with a conditional use permit, whether it is prohibited, or whether the change is substantial enough to warrant a formal recommendation, a formal determination by the planning committee, or a request for an amendment. Yes, yes, yes.
And then
So,
we have 16 and 17 in the chat box.
so we have 16 and 17 in the chat box. Could you put those back on the screen? Dan?
Yeah.
Revised 1 and then 2.
Okay, so revised 1, are we gonna, would be 16. The applicant shall develop and submit a traffic routing plan that avoids travel along Alaska Gold Access Road to the Planning Commission for their review and approval prior to the issuance of a building permit. And revised 2, which will be referred to as 17. The applicant shall develop and submit a revised parking plan so that no parking is proposed along Stedman, while keeping the same number of parking spaces as indicated in the application to the Planning Commission for their review and approval prior to the issuance of a building permit.
We need a
So
motion. We need a motion to adopt those. I would motion to adopt those as or conditions 16 and 17.
Well, we need to do 1 all the way, 1 through 17.
1 through 17.
Oh, wait.
Which includes 13 as amended.
Okay. Well, then in that case, I would motion to adopt conditions 1 through 17, including the amended condition 13, as per our conditional use.
I'll second. I think the one thing that I just wanted to clarify was that Alaska Gold Access Road is only the section that I'm discussing. Does it come up any further towards, does it, where the stop sign is coming from the library towards that road and the stop sign is there, which you would then turn left and go down the hill? Is that the only road labeled Alaska Gold Access Road? Yes, right there? Okay, I'm just making sure that, it doesn't include any part of these other roads or anything else.
It is just that section, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Call the vote? Nope.
Roll call. Councilmember Jennings.
Yes.
Councilmember Oden.
Yes.
Councilmember McCann.
Yes.
Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
That motion passed.
So now is it a vote on the whole CUP or is that it? We're done.
Right, so back to discussion and or if you want to make a motion on the original motion to approve the conditional use with all of those conditions applied.
Okay. So would we like to entertain a motion?
Well, the motion's already been made. And so
Any
if there's
discussion?
Any further discussion?
Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Okay. Councilmember Barker.
Yes.
Councilmember Oden.
Yes.
Councilmember Jennings.
Yes.
Councilmember McCann.
Yes.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
That motion passed.
Need a motion to adjourn? Yeah. Make a motion to adjourn, or do we have comment period or no? No. Okay. Make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourned, meeting adjourned at 9:45.